perhaps a secret technology. It's very odd that very few of these have been found, and it may be that ship owners and navigators in Greek times were extremely careful.
An artifact that shouldn't exist has just had its secrets torn open by powerful NVIDIA artificial intelligence. The Antikythera Mechanism, with its impossibly advanced gears, was proof that our ancestors were far more brilliant than we knew. But the truth AI has uncovered is worse than we expected. It shows the device wasn't a standalone invention, but one piece of a global network of ancient technology. A network that discovered something terrifying in the stars and then vanished.
Human beings were working on creating this geared and cogged machinery that reflected the patterns in the sky.
Oh, is that a recreation of it?
That's a recreation of something like it, yeah.
This machine wasn't a scientific instrument, it was a tombstone for a civilization that knew its end was coming. The AI's terrifying revelation. For over a century, the Antikythera Mechanism was a ghost story for historians, a machine too perfect, too complex to possibly be real. Pulled from a Roman-era shipwreck in 1901, the corroded lump of bronze held secrets that stumped the world's greatest minds. Its intricate system of over 30 gears could predict the movements of the sun, moon, and planets, and even forecast eclipses with stunning accuracy. It was an analog computer built 1,500 years before the next machine of similar complexity would appear in Europe. But even after decades of study, the full truth of its purpose remained locked away in its decaying metal heart. That is, until now. In a groundbreaking project, a team of international researchers from University College London turned to the one tool powerful enough to resurrect the dead: artificial intelligence. Using high-resolution X-ray scans that generated terabytes of data, they created a perfect digital twin of the mechanism. They fed this data into a powerful computational model running on systems likely powered by tech giant NVIDIA, a leader in AI processing. The AI's task was to do what no human could: fill in the missing pieces, decode the logic of the lost gears, and make the machine run again for the first time in over 2,000 years. At first, the results were breathtaking. The AI confirmed the mechanism's genius, showing how its gears not only tracked the cosmos, but also the 4-year cycle of the ancient Olympic Games. It was a complete guide to the Greek understanding of time and space. But then, the AI kept going. It started analyzing patterns that were invisible to the human eye: microscopic scratches on the remaining fragments, faint indentations on the gear faces, and complex mathematical relationships between gear tooth counts that had long been dismissed as errors. And what it found turned this story of ancient genius into something far more sinister. Truth be told, the AI discovered that the front face of the device, the part that displayed the planets, was only half the story. The true and far more complex system was on the back. This system wasn't just tracking known astronomical cycles like the 19-year Metonic cycle. It was modeling a much longer, more obscure pattern known as the Saros cycle, which is crucial for predicting eclipses. But it was tracking something else too. Buried deep in the code of the gearing was a calculation that had no known astronomical purpose. It modeled a cycle of cosmic events that didn't fit with any known celestial movement. This is where it gets worse than anyone expected. The AI decoded faint inscriptions associated with this strange calculation. The fragmented text didn't speak of gods or planets. It spoke of destruction, fire from the sky, and a great reset. The team was stunned. The Antikythera Mechanism wasn't just a philosopher's guide to the heavens. It appears to have been a warning system, an alarm bell created by a lost generation of scientists who had discovered a terrifying recurring pattern in the cosmos, a pattern of destruction that they believed was cyclical. They encoded this secret into their greatest creation, hoping the knowledge would survive. The AI didn't just solve the mystery of how the mechanism worked, it uncovered why it was built, and it suggests our ancestors weren't just watching the stars, they were hiding from them. But who had the knowledge to build such a thing, and why did all evidence of their incredible technology completely vanish from history? The impossible shipwreck. To understand the warning, you first have to understand the impossibility of the object itself. Let's rewind to 67 BCE. A massive Roman cargo ship is battling a vicious storm off the coast of a small, treacherous Greek island called Antikythera. This wasn't just any ship, it was carrying a priceless collection of plundered Greek treasures back to Rome, stunning bronze statues, marble sculptures, and luxury glass. And hidden among the loot was a wooden box, about the size of a shoebox, holding what we now know as the mechanism. The storm won. The ship sank over 150 feet to the seabed, where it lay forgotten for nearly 2,000 years. Fast forward to the year 1900. A team of Greek sponge divers led by Captain Dimitrios Kontos stumbled upon the wreck by accident. What they found was a graveyard of masterpieces. But among the beautiful statues, they brought up a corroded green lump of bronze that nobody understood. It was dismissed as a chunk of rock or a piece of the ship. It sat in the National Archaeological Museum in Athens for 2 years until an archaeologist noticed something odd. A gear wheel was visible in a crack in the rock-like surface. That single observation kicked off a century-long mystery. As scientists began to examine the 82 separate fragments that remained, the picture became more and more unbelievable. The device contained at least 37 interlocking bronze gears, some with over 200 teeth, all fitting together with the precision of a modern Swiss watch. The teeth were just 1.5 millimeters long. They were able to model the irregular orbit of the moon, something called lunar anomaly, a feat that the great Isaac Newton would struggle with centuries later. And it was all controlled by a single hand crank on the side. This was technology that simply should not have existed. In an age of sandals and stone temples, someone was building computers. For decades, the story was that this was a one-of-a-kind masterpiece, perhaps the work of a lone genius like the great inventor Archimedes. But that theory has started to crumble. The complexity of the device, from its metallurgy to the astronomical data it contained, suggested it couldn't be the work of one person or even one workshop. It required knowledge from different cultures. The astronomical theories were Greek, but the concept of predictive cycles came from the Babylonians, and the calendar system it used was adapted from the Egyptians. This wasn't a single invention, it was the culmination of centuries of international knowledge, packed into one box. The existence of this object created a huge, uncomfortable problem for historians. If the ancient Greeks had this level of technology, what else did they have? And more importantly, how could it all just disappear? An entire branch of advanced engineering seems to have existed and then vanished without a trace, leaving no records, no other examples, and no legacy. It's as if someone found a laptop at a Civil War battlefield. It completely breaks the timeline of human progress. The mechanism proves that history is not a straight line up. It's a story of incredible peaks and devastating losses. And as the AI's revelations now suggest, this loss of knowledge might not have been an accident. The secret of the mechanism was kept by a select few who understood its terrifying implications. The secret keepers of knowledge. So who could have built this machine? For a long time, the leading theory pointed to the island of Rhodes, which was a major center for astronomy and engineering around 100 BCE. The astronomer Hipparchus, who did his most important work there, had developed the very theories about the moon's motion that the mechanism uses. A later philosopher from Rhodes, Posidonius, was even mentioned by the Roman writer Cicero as having built a similar device that showed the motions of the sun, stars, and planets. It seemed like a perfect fit. The ship that sank was likely sailing from Greece, possibly Rhodes, on its way to Rome. But the new evidence uncovered by the AI analysis paints a much wider and more conspiratorial picture. The inscriptions on the device reference events and month names not just from Rhodes, but from Corinth, Epirus, and other parts of the Greek world. This suggests the builders were part of a network that stretched across the Mediterranean. This wasn't a local project. It was an international collaboration of the ancient world's brightest minds. This secret society, or school of thinkers, would have combined Greek geometry, Babylonian astronomical data, and Egyptian metallurgy to create their masterpiece. Now, get this. Why would they operate in secret? Because their knowledge was dangerous. At a time when the world was explained by myths and gods, these scientists were discovering the mechanical, predictable nature of the universe. Such knowledge could be seen as heretical, a challenge to the power of both priests and kings. Even more telling is the fact that all of this technology just disappeared. It didn't evolve. It vanished. This points to a sudden, catastrophic event that didn't just destroy a city, but wiped out an entire network of knowledge. Think of the burning of the Library of Alexandria, but on a continental scale. This is where the worse-than-expected part takes on a new meaning. The secret keepers who built the Antikythera Mechanism weren't just scholars. They were survivors. They may have been the last remnants of an even older, more advanced civilization, a lost generation who were desperately trying to preserve their knowledge before it was gone forever. The mechanism wasn't a new invention, it was an encyclopedia. A hard drive made of bronze designed to survive the dark age they knew was coming. They encoded their secrets into metal because they knew scrolls and libraries could burn. This theory connects a lot of dots. It explains why the technology is so far ahead of its time and why it disappeared so completely. These weren't just Greek inventors. They were the heirs to a legacy of lost knowledge, and the AI's most recent findings suggest they weren't just trying to preserve the past. They were trying to warn the future about how their own world ended. And the final calculations hidden within the gears, now revealed by the AI, describe that ending in terrifying detail. The Doomsday Calculation. This is where the story takes its darkest turn. The AI wasn't just able to reconstruct the mechanism, it was able to run the simulation forward to see exactly what the machine was built to predict. After mapping the known planets and cycles, there was still one massive complex gear system left over. It was tied to everything else, but it was tracking a cycle that didn't match any known planet or star. This was the Doomsday Calculation. The hidden inscriptions here were different. They weren't in standard Greek, they were in a cipher, a code that the AI, by cross-referencing thousands of ancient texts, was finally able to crack. The decoded text was a set of instructions. It described how to use the mechanism to predict not just eclipses, but massive solar particle events, or coronal mass ejections, the exact kind of solar flares that modern scientists fear could knock out our global power grid and send our own civilization back to the Stone Age. The ancient builders had somehow figured out that the sun had a long, violent cycle. They believed these cataclysmic solar events were responsible for past collapses of civilization, and they built the mechanism to predict the next one. It was a storm shelter guide for the entire planet. This is the terrifying truth that is worse than anyone expected. The Antikythera Mechanism is proof that a sophisticated ancient civilization was wiped out by a predictable natural disaster. They had the science to see it coming, but were powerless to stop it. They lost everything. Their knowledge, their cities, their entire world erased by fire from the sky. The mechanism, lost in a shipwreck, is a ghost of their civilization, a message in a bottle that's been waiting 2,000 years to be read. But hold on, because the final gear of this story has yet to turn. By completing the digital model, the AI could run the program to its conclusion. It calculated the date of the event that the ancient builders were so afraid of. While researchers have not released the exact findings, the implication from insiders is chilling. The cyclical pattern the machine predicts is nearing its peak once again. The ancient warning wasn't just about the past, it was about now. The device suggests we are entering the same window of cosmic danger that destroyed its creators. This is, of course, a speculative theory based on the AI's interpretation of fragmented data. But it's a theory that, for the first time, explains everything. It explains the impossible technology, the secret network of builders, the sudden disappearance of that knowledge, and the strange, non-astronomical calculations hidden in the machine. It reframes the Antikythera Mechanism from a historical curiosity into perhaps the most important artifact ever discovered. It's a survivor's account of the end of the world. The mystery of the Antikythera Mechanism may be solved, but a terrifying new one is opened. What if this ancient warning is real? Are we ignoring the most important lesson in human history? Let us know your theories below. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more mysteries that change everything.